has always feared monsters and beasts that hunt and kill them. Maybe it's remnant of all those tens of thousands of years that we were pretty much slaughtered by everything around us. Or maybe it's just a subconscious realization that without weapons we're pretty vulnerable. Beasts and monsters of all kinds have surfaced through the ages, from Nessie to Bigfoot, Chupacabra and unicorns. They all exist in one form or the other, but nowhere so clearly as in cinema. All of Us Are Dead is a Korean horror series about a bunch of teenagers that are present on Ground Zero, their school, of a zombie outbreak. One of their teachers appears to be at the forefront of the outbreak, and his ambitions lure in a bunch of kids with catastrophic results. The teenagers in question are a diverse bunch of Koreans ranging from the sports team girl, the outcast, the fatty, the slut, the hardos, the bullied, the bully and others. These unlikely teens have to work together and set aside their high school drama and survive what can quickly become an apocalypse. Well, that's at least what they should do. They're teenagers after all. Ha ha ha. The teens quickly find themselves trapped in the school trying to survive the ever-increasing number of zombies that are after them. And yes, they know they are zombies, so at least that's a positive. What follows over the course of 12 45-minute long episodes is about every zombie cliché you can imagine. These are fast zombies, hungry for blood with, in certain cases, superhuman strength. The story also goes outside of the school as parents and teachers of course get involved with it too, and eventually the whole city population, politicians and army. You know, like every single other zombie movie and series ever created, give and take a few original ones. Hell, it's even similar to some more recent Asian zombie series that are on the same channel. Sweet Home and Kingdom to name a couple. But this is in a school with teenagers. Yeah? Anyways, expect a lot of blood, crazy Asians running fast, cracking bones and contortionists like only they can do, hybrids, and a whole lot of contrived plot twists. People sacrificing themselves for nothing. Conveniently weak zombies that can't do the same things they did not moments earlier. Stupid behavior from the survivors that could have made their predicament easier and more. Mix in some high school drama and love triangles. Some weird humor in places and characters that disappear as soon as they popped up. For half of the series I was invested in it, but after that I just wanted it to be over. It's too similar and lacks a novelty I can get behind. The much better series Kingdom, for example, which currently has 2 episodes, was set in the 16th century and had some very good ideas. This is just more of the same except for the superhuman zombie hybrids, I guess. Better than most fast food but pretty bland nevertheless. Check that. For decades there exists shaky and blurry footage of the most famous cryptic of them all, Bigfoot. Such images are always annoying to me. None of these people ever knows how to use a camera. They're swaying wildly around instead of filming whatever wonder they are filming, or they have their settings at such abysmal quality a drunk person would have had a clearer view of the thing. And so we get exists who wish to convey this practice in an hour-and-a-half movie about a couple of friends going out on a hiking/social media channel trip to a cabin. Not a normal cabin. A forbidden cabin they were not supposed to go to. En route to said cabin, however, they hit something with the car. Who knows what it was? It was dark, the forest thick, but then, monstrous sounds echo in the night. Oh oopsie. Good thing we the viewers are far more clever than these bunch of people. And so comes the tale of a group of friends slowly being picked off by something that does exist. It's a campy attempt at the monster horror genre with all the right and wrong cliché tilde copyright s with an added bonus of motherfucking shaky cam. It's only towards the end that you get a clear view of our beloved Sasquatch, but by then it's too late. Exists is a movie that shouldn't exist. It's derivative and nothing you haven't seen done better elsewhere. that. Ambrosia, food of the gods, a mythical meal that nourishes mankind beyond anything one has ever experienced and more. In this horror movie from 1967, however, the food of the gods brings a fairly big trouble to those who come in contact with it. Loosely based on a portion of the 1904 H.G. Wells novel The Food of the Gods and How It Came to Earth, the film reduced Wells' tale to an ecology strikes back scenario, common in science fiction movies at the time. Loosely based on a portion of the 1904 H.G. Wells' novel The Food of the Gods and How It Came to Earth, the movie shows us a couple of guys going on a hunting trip, when suddenly one of them gets attacked by giant wasps. However, the fun is immediately over. The hospital registers enormous amounts of venom in his blood and claims allergies, but the friend won't let it go that easily, and so he goes back with another fella to find out what is going on. Meanwhile, a corporate leader meets up with a local farmer who claims he has something that will end poverty forever. Could the two be related? Well, of course they are silly. It's a movie. Food of the Gods is an enjoyable but dated horror film with some equally dated special effects. Granted, they're not special effects. They're trickery with film, as we see footage of rats superimposed on other footage in order to make them look giant. It works pretty well and could easily be fixed in today's cinema, but it has charm, much like the rest of the movie. It's a little unnerving, too much to my surprise, though the massive amounts of camp created by the events and the look of it cramp the style a little. If you like big beasties taking over the world, then be sure to watch this. Smash that. With the slight cliffhanger from the previous Food of the Gods movie, we now venture into the sequel to the classic that hit the screen a decade before. Gwar. Food of the Gods is the movie that inspired the band Gwar to its name. The premise once again is simple. Some special substance created by a professor in some kind of college allows for plants to grow exponentially. The only problem is that it also works on animals, and, as you will see in a couple of both frightening and hilarious scenes, humans. Gwar. Food of the Gods 2 doesn't feature any of the actors of the previous movie, but it does bring back the rats. This time not superimposed but with puppets. And it works, kinda. There's a bit more 80s in this film, bit more sexy, bit more violence, making this a very different beast from the 70s one, and I liked it. What's more so, I wish they had done another sequel that addresses the ending to this movie, but they didn't. And that's a shame, really, because the scenes with that were the ones I remembered from my childhood. Furthermore, and this isn't part of the review, there's another movie I recall being called Food of the Gods, though I cannot find it anywhere under that name. It was an Asian film about some very nasty guy getting a disease in Africa. He rapes a native and gets some virus which he takes along to his home country. Other stuff happens. If anyone has the name of that movie, feel free to share it in the comments so I can recollect it more succinctly and figure out why I thought this was named Food of the Gods as well. Oh, never mind. It's called Ebola syndrome. See? I always get the answer to my question a second after I ask it. Seriously. Happens all the time in my life. Very weird. And it only works when you ask it. Anyways, Ebola syndrome review is coming in the far future. Meanwhile, you can watch Gwar. Food of the Gods 2. Smash that. The Guyver is an American 90s science fiction movie based on the manga and anime of the same name. A weird professor who is working on something called the Guyver is kidnapped and killed by a bunch of weirdos who just happen to be aliens like him. He is able to hide the Guyver, which is said to be a super weapon, before his death, but as you might expect, it gets found by our hero. And to be clear, our hero is not Mark Hamill as suggested on the cover of this movie. No, that's just a cop-out to make sure people go watch this film. No, the hero is some other guy, and Hamill is merely one common CIA agent trying to get to the bottom of this weird murder. The guy who found the Guyver gets bullied and he turns into the Guyver, a man-machine hybrid that kicks some ass. And that's pretty much the movie's plot. Good versus bad. Aliens versus man and a hybrid. And Mark Hamill with a pedostache. And oh boy, is it a treat to see how Mr. Trump derangement system acts in this doozy of a film. Hamill's performance is quaint to say the least, but funny enough. I expected this film to be worse. The practical effects used to have the aliens, the Guyver, and the obligatory tentacle-like extensions are a far cry better than many tentacle movies I have seen. And I have seen plenty, thank you very much. It feels like an episode of Power Rangers but with more budget, more goo and much better lighting. It looks pretty neat actually, seeing this was made before special effects were common and good enough. And knowing this, the movie should have been great, but there's this weird comedy put into the film that once again makes it feel like it's a Power Rangers movie. I don't know whether or not it's intentional or not. Some trick to appease the Power Ranger fans out there, or just the way the anime and manga are. I don't know. All I know is that I didn't care for it. It took me out of the movie, out of the body horror tentacle machine mess, and into what can almost be described as slapstick. Drop that. The Guyver 2 is the sequel to the first American live-action Guyver that featured none other than Luke Skywalker himself. Mark, I like to talk about Trump even though I hate M. Hamill. Luckily for all, Mark didn't decide to come back for the sequel, seeing he was killed in the first one. No worries, that's no spoiler, and didn't really feature in the film all that much. Guyver 2 semi-continues the story from the first film and thrusts us a year from the events in the first film. Our main hero still struggles to use the Guyver as it should, but as he arrives at an archaeological site where they discovered an alien vessel, things start to get out of hand. Needless to say that this alien vessel is connected to the Guyver and brings in a couple of baddies he will have to face. The Guyver is yet another tokusatsu superhero film with customs and practical effects that remind us of such glorious cheese like Biome or the Power Rangers. All this stuff is pretty neat and very well done, surpassing many low-budget films that are using CGI instead. The plot, however, is not all that much to write home about, nor is the acting or the cinematography. I did, however, find this slightly, and only slightly, more enjoyable than the previous Guyver. The action is better, although that is not saying much. We are of course talking about a Power Ranger level of action after all. The Guyver 2 is better than his predecessor, but I suggest sticking to the anime for the real deal. Drop that. Jurassic World Dominion is the third Jurassic World movie and the sixth movie based on the Jurassic Park series, where a bunch of scientists bring back dinosaurs without realizing things will go wrong. In this iteration of Jurassic World, we bring back Chris Pratt's raptor whispering character and Bryce Dallas Howard's feisty hot redhead who can have my babies anytime. Both have a daughter, and she, unfortunately, gets kidnapped together with Blues, you know, the smartest of the raptors from the previous movies, Kid. Both set out to save them. Meanwhile, we get some fanfare as Samuel, Laura Dern and Jeff Goldblum return to find out why giant murder locusts are eating the world's grain supplies. They venture to a research center run by a tech billionaire who looks suspiciously like Tim Cook. Fuck you, Tim Cook, you Steve Jobs wannabe. I mean, why would you even wanna be that dickwad anyways, Tim Cook? He's up to no good and well. In short, these two groups will collide with each other, they're mutual enemies and a whole lot of dinosaurs. In fact, that's how you can describe this movie in general. A mismatch of the previous movies colliding, stitching together of all the good stuff. The member berries, the nostalgia, from standing up in the car and lifting your glasses, to the T-Rex eye, to Bryce Dallas getting wet, although she doesn't get as revealingly wet as she did in the first one, unfortunately for me. It all feels like the checklist of what worked, and as such, it doesn't really work, at least not for people like me who have seen this trick be used over and over again by corporations who have lost all sense of creativity. The notion that the world is overrun with dinosaurs is interesting, but they turn it into a sort of Bond film with car chases and all that jazz. Fine, that stuff was in Jurassic Park too, but I'm here for the dinos, and while they are on screen it rocks. Even if they redo scenes from previous movies in this one too. Dominion is also very long. Very, very long. especially for kids. Too long even, but since it's the last movie in the franchise, I guess that's okay. And that, for me, is the redeeming factor. This is the swan song, the final one, at least for now, and I'm willing to ignore its flaws a little. It's just sad they didn't make a better movie, as in the new movie, without using what worked from the other movies. I mean, come on. Be creative. Also more Bryce Dallas Howard in a wet white t-shirt, thank you very much. Check that. Digging Up the Marrow is a fairly low-budget documentary by Ada Green, and that's the main problem with this film. It's a mother-flipping mockumentary. Most documentaries are already annoying, but making a mockumentary with people having scripted casual conversations is even worse. Anyways, a group of filmmakers got in touch with a guy who claims he has access to an underground area where rejects and other birth defects, freaks and CO gather and live. Real monsters exist and he knows it. They venture to him and ask him annoying questions that don't get answers. Then they try to figure out what goes on, and we get dragged along the slow and tedious process of them trying to figure things out. There's also an attempt at humor in this movie, but I didn't laugh once. By the time the movie becomes interesting, it's already halfway. They dangle interesting plots that go nowhere and pretty much underdeliver on it all. I'd have made the documentary crap less obvious and only 20 minutes of that shit. The rest could have easily been the discovery of the monsters and them going against the crew in a most violent way. None of this happens, or at least not really, and that's just a shame. Check that. The fourth kind is based on the type of encounters people can have with, for example, extraterrestrials, where the third kind is being contacted. Apparently the fourth kind is being kidnapped by them. And so we get Mila Jovovich, a psychologist who deals with people having a traumatic event. She discovers that these events are very similar and goes further into it. On top of that, she herself experiences a traumatic event that she doesn't really get out of unscathed. Could it be aliens? Or is it all in her head? The movie starts off with Mila claiming that what we are about to see is real, and that the creators of this movie decided it would be for the best to use split screens where the actual footage is placed next to the reenactment. I wonder what these directors were smoking, or if they had some kind of probe inside of them forcing them to. But what a dreadful idea. Not only is the Mila intro preposterous to start with, once you see the supposed real footage with a fairly known actress, you'll roll your eyes, and that eye rolling will continue many times when you realize that both things you see are actors. I know it sounds weird when I say it. Of course it's actors. It's a movie. But to claim that one side of our screen is real and not acted is just number. Just number. As for the rest of the movie, it's boring and bland. A mix of faux documentary, science fiction and horror, and it sucks balls. Even Mila doesn't save this movie from the sinkhole of shit it's in. She's never been the greatest actress. Well, she was okay in Jeanne d'Arc and The Fifth Element, but those were good movies. This is just crap. For me, the creative minds behind the lousy idea of mixing fake real and film should be abducted and anally probed. Maybe then they will realize what a lack of taste means. Drop that. The Prey Legend of Karnoctus sounds like one of those fake movies that pop up right before a major blockbuster hits the cinema. Right before the new Predator called Prey, we got this movie about a predator-like monster chasing down a bunch of American soldiers in some Afghani mountain. And hey, it's a Danny Trejo movie. Too bad for his fans that Danny actually appears in the movie for about 6 minutes. Once again, a bait and switch from these streaming companies to advertise their movie with a big name only to take them away instantly. Sam Neill in Invasion Anyone. I hate it. Be honest about your movie. Fine, they bring in the numbers. I understand it, but I wanted to see a Danny Trejo film. Even though, let's be honest, he's only a cult actor. But anyways, soldiers in a mountain hunted by a predator. And it's pretty okay. The resemblance between Predator and this movie is obvious and it's fine. The movie starts with a bunch of soldiers mentioning Street Fighter, Zelda, Contra and other video games, and I was like, okay. you got my attention, and so we follow these mad lads as they are forced to team with a Black Ops crew doing some nefarious deeds inside of the mountain. Mountain, you say? It must be pretty dark in those caves. Yes, but the lighting is on point enough so you won't have to set your brightness to 100. There's humor in this, there's some sexy stuff, there's action, there's violence. Some of the effects are clearly amateuristic, especially the gore, but it's all good fun. And what's more, the monster looks pretty badass to me. What's more, and once again one of those tricks of streaming companies, there's an open ending hinting at a possible sequel. It's too bad that most of these cliffhanger endings never turn into a true sequel though. But hey, maybe we get Danny Trejo in that one since he pops up, kinda, in the end. We will know next year whether or not this gets a sequel. In the meantime, you can watch this fun little flick. Smash that